Cheers, guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast podcast. Now, what is a Pancast podcast? It is a podcast-style cooking video where we talk about food, wine, drink, cookware, and anything related to the kitchen. Kind of informal and a little more community-based than some of the more formal, structured videos. And I think we have a pretty good time. I have to throw that out there because the algorithm does not know what a Pancast is. I know, it's crazy. Mabel is making an appearance. She's growing like a weed. And Mom is at work, and we're down in the basement talking about cookware. I think we're having a much better time. Okay, in this episode of the Pancast, we're going to talk this guy. This is the big 13-quart Staub enamel cast iron Dutch oven. Ginormous Dutch oven that I got in the other day, unboxed it. Did my first cook in it yesterday, so we'll see how that went. We are going to talk a little bit about food quality, now that RFK Jr. may be as part of the government. Tariffs, we may mention tariffs. Got some quick hitters, going to talk a little bit more Staub, and cast of thousands, viewer mail, and more. So let's get started. This time of year, every year my wife holds an annual Christmas cookie decorating party. She makes up a bunch of blank cookies and has icing and sprinkles and all the toppings. And all of her friends, everybody comes over, brings their kids, and the kids decorate cookies in one room. In the kitchen, I run the food show. And I run the wine and whiskey tasting. But one of the things I cooked yesterday was a big vat of chili. And I normally make the supermarket chili easy, and it's pretty tasty, and you can make it in big quantities when lots of people are coming over. So 1 pound of ground beef, 1 can of beans, 1 onion, 1 can of tomatoes in a seasoning pack. Except for this time, I multiplied that by 4. So I did a quad batch of chili. Last year, I had 2 9-quarts out and browned 2 pounds of beef in each of those, and then combined everything, and that worked okay. With this 13-quart though, this thing browned 4 pounds of ground beef in one batch. It was absolutely amazing. Made a huge vat of delicious chili in this thing, and I've only unboxed this thing and cooked in it one time, but so far I absolutely love it. It is humongous and empty. With the lid on, it weighs close to 24 pounds. So this is a solid, giant, nice piece of cookware. We'll be doing some more cooking features based on this guy down the road. Now, speaking of Staub, I put up a video the other day showing the difference in the lids between Staub and Le Creuset, and showing the difference how the basting spikes on the Staub lids actually work. And they work even better if you put ice on the lids of the stoves. They have this flat lid with a rim. And I got a little feedback on various Staub things today, so let's go through some of that. Let's see, JF Hoopert wrote in and has a request for a Pancast topic. How do I rate the Staub cooking utensils? I got some of these Staub, I guess they're silicone with a little bit of wood at the end of the handle, and wondering if there are any others you should consider. I think these things work fine. I don't think they're any better or worse than anything else. After all, it's a spoon, and there's no moving parts. A spoon, it either spoons stuff out or it doesn't. And this, it works just fine. What you got to be careful of with the wood handles is if you leave them wet, they will show a little bit of signs of wear. But I like them just because I like Staub stuff, and it's just kind of in the Staub universe, and they're kind of fun to have. But as far as working any better than any other silicone utensils, I think it's all pretty much par for the course. Just maybe a little more fun. Yes. Let's see, Bobby Catton wrote in and talking about the flat top on the Staub lid is very handy for resting a spoon. As a matter of fact, the Staub manual also talks about the ability to rest a spoon on a Staub lid. I actually do not do this, and I'll show you why. If you have a smaller Staub like this one, or even the bigger one, if you stir your soup or chili or stew, you're going to have a messy spoon. And if you put that on top of the lid, you're going to make a mess on the lid. So that's the first reason I don't do that Also, I've had this happen with smaller, shorter pans, but I cook on a gas cooktop. And if you leave a spoon hanging over the edge of your pot or pan, this thing is going to get screaming hot. So you go to pick up your spoon and you might burn your hand. And I've also had on frying pans, if I leave a wooden spoon in the pan, I've left it for a few minutes and come back, and the wood is actually caught on fire. The spoon was smoking. Smoking spoon. So even though you can put a utensil on the flat stove lid, that is not for me. I don't do that. And DMB3428 wrote in and said he had purchased a Staub 4-quart round cocotte in grenadine during the Black Friday sales. And he's really happy with that. And he says he has already made beef stew, chili, goulash, chuck roast in it. Now, is beef stew, chili, goulash, chuck roast, is that one dish? Or is that 4 dishes? I don't know, but he jumped on the Black Friday sales. I hope everyone else did too. Those Staubs, the 4 quarts, might have been the bargain of the season. Let's see, if you're still doing some Christmas shopping, I think a lot of the sales are still going on. What you're going to run up against this week, though, is that the free ground shipping for gifts to arrive in time for Christmas, that's going to run out sometime this week. Let's see, I know Debouillet still has their sale going on. Up to 40% off. It's really 25% off or so on most of the stuff we talk about around here. The Mineral B Pros, which I've been recommending since 2019. You can look for those, the Mineral Bs. But if you're going to get something from Debouillet, I think their ground shipping to arrive in time for Christmas, the free shipping, I think it runs out on the 17th. Also, just eyeballing the inventory, it's kind of picked over after the Black Friday sales. So some of the good stuff is gone, but still some good stuff remains. Also, Falk, they've got their 20% off sale going. That's still going on. And I think the various places around the internet still have the deals on the stoves for $129 on these 4 quarts. So jump on it in time for Christmas if you're still doing some shopping. Let's see a couple of quick hitter, not really reviews, but this Blackstone silicone mat, no moving parts, fairly flexible. My wife got it for me for my birthday. Actually works pretty well. What I like about this is that it's wide enough to hold multiple utensils. So if you got chili and stuff going, ow, that's hair. It holds those. It's fairly deep, so even if your utensil is fairly messy, that works pretty well. What I don't like about it, and I know it's probably part of their brand, it's orange, and I don't know if the orange really looks good in a fancy kitchen. And also it's got a big Griddle More Blackstone logo in there. Looks aside, it works fairly well though. Also, these Highware cooking, cooling and baking racks. I got these specifically because it says these fit into a 1/4 sheet pan. Well, I got these guys in and they do not actually fit, at least in a Nordic ware, 1/4 sheet pan. They're a little bit too wide, but if you're just using them as cooling racks and don't need to stick them on a baking sheet, then they work fairly well. We always joke about eggs sliding like hockey pucks, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. I bought a hockey puck. Not only do eggs slide like hockey pucks slide like hockey pucks. And I might start giving myself the Hockey Puck Award when I overcook a fried egg. Let's see, let's talk about RFK Jr. and the new, hopefully, better American food supply. Have you ever been to Europe? I spent a couple of years in Italy, not all in one stretch, over various trips and stuff. But I would go to Italy and just chow down on delicious food, lots of wine, but I would lose weight. Now, granted, I would walk a little bit more because I didn't have a car over there. But there was always something in the back of my mind that said that European food, it's better, or else they're putting something in our food. Now, regardless of political party and who you voted for, if RFK Jr. does get into the government and really does help the U.S. food supply, I will be all for that, because why should we not have the best food in the world? Why should we have worse food than Europe or Asia or anywhere else? We should be at least as good as everybody in the rest of the world. And I think we got some catching up to do, sorry to say. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about tariffs. Now, I don't know if tariffs are a good idea or not, but if they're coming down the road, they are factually something we're going to have to deal with. Around here, we talk about all-clad cookware. Sometimes that is mostly made in America. Some of the things we talk about are made in America, some of the Lodge stuff. But these Dutch ovens, for example, this thing, this Moviel pan, this stuff is all made overseas, a lot of it in Europe. Now, I'm not sure exactly how a tariff works, if it's at the retail level, at the final pricing level, or if it's kind of like a VAT, value added at some step in the production process. But, even her first word. But for example, these Dutch ovens are already multiple hundreds of dollars. If you slap a $200 or $300 tariff on top, I don't know if anybody is going to be able to afford any of the European stuff. For one thing, it might also bump the cost of the Chinese made cookware up so that maybe American cookware can compete with some of the foreign manufacturing. Who knows about that? It's also possible that the threats of 100% tariffs are just an initial negotiating tactic. Maybe that's kind of the shocking headline number and they're going to walk it back down. Or maybe there'll be exceptions. I don't know, but a lot of the cookware we talk about might get more expensive depending on how the tariffs go. Let's see, Tom Sorty, 4197 is from Canada, and saw one of my review videos where I cooked some okra, and he wonders, what is okra? And it's a vegetable. I don't know what family it's in, but it's almost like a little seed pod, and it's very slimy. And apparently you can cook it with tomatoes, and that reduces some of the slime. Boiled okra and tomatoes as a young kid growing up in Alabama. Some of the most disgusting stuff in the entire world, and you had to eat it. However, fried okra is different. It has cornmeal on the outside, salted, peppered, and fried. Gets a little crunch on the outside, and I think fried okra is absolutely delicious. But if you're from Canada and have never tried fried okra, I've got a fried okra recipe, my mom's recipe, and if you go to, lots of times here in Utah, like a big retailer like Walmart, will have sliced frozen cut okra in the frozen food section. And I would highly recommend giving it a try. Let's talk a little carbon steel seasoning. A few questions. Let's see, my reviews, 4905, wrote in and asked about seasoning a pan with beef tallow. Also, Dave Fleming, 3638, wrote in talking about using avocado oil. And the question here is, can you use beef tallow or use olive oil? You can do whatever you want with your pan. However, and I'm just picking a date here. If you've been using your pan 3 months or less, I would stick with grapeseed, canola, or veggie oil. That eliminates a potential headache. And if something goes wrong, you'll know that there's nothing wrong with the oil you used. You can eliminate that as a source of a problem. And then after 3 months or so, you've cooked in your pan a bunch, you've seasoned it probably a time or two, maybe done some maintenance seasonings, and you kind of know what you're doing. And then if you want to try something exotic or one of those other products, have at it. But you'll know what you're doing. And if something goes wrong, you'll know exactly what the problem is. But generally speaking, though, if you try seasoning your pan with an oil and it doesn't work correctly, you just got to scrub it out, re-season it, and keep on going. There's not too much downside if you do want to try something. Let's see, I'm going to give a quick thumbs down to, slightly off topic, but this GoPro Hero 11. A lot of times I will use this for cooking videos. I'll set it near a pan or near a cutting board when I'm doing the prep work. And multiple times, this thing will just conk out. It overheats, and you know, you're 20 minutes into a cooking video and you look over and the dadgum camera has shut down. I filmed a steak au poivre video this afternoon, which is going to be part of the all-clad D5 review which is coming up. Make sure you're subscribed if you want to see that. But thank goodness I had 2 cameras rolling, and I looked over and this thing had just conked out. Now these things, I think they overheat. And if you got one, if you're parachuting and got one strapped to your head, or you're skiing or on a mountain bike, there's probably a lot of airflow keeping the cameras cool. But just in a kitchen and not even that close to a pan, sometimes just with the prep work, the dadgum thing just overheats and conks out. So GoPro Hero 11, when it's working, it's great. Other times, thumbs down. See, I put up a video making popcorn in a Falk saucier. Got some feedback about that. I took the lid off at the end, and it was just almost cinematic, if that's possible for a YouTube short. But I took the lid off, and we got one final pop. It's almost if it was on cue. So I like that. Let's see, James Hobbs wrote in, and talking about making popcorn, says it's a taller pot makes it easier to vent the steam for tender popcorn. He recommends using a splatter screen in place of a lid, I guess, to let some of that steam escape. I have not tried that, but I may give that a shot. What do you guys think? How do you make your popcorn on the stovetop? Took a little Finex cast iron, got in a Finex 12-inch cast iron the other day. Someone let me know, and I did not know this, but Finex is owned by Lodge. They don't really play that fact up on their website. Now the box says Portland, Oregon, and someone also said they're not made in Portland, Oregon anymore. They're made in Tennessee. That would make sense if they are, since they have been bought out by Lodge, but the box makes it seem like they're still made in Portland, Oregon. So we will find out when we review our Finex. Drones in New Jersey, and you might have noticed it's been about 2 weeks since the last Pancast. We did some holiday traveling around Thanksgiving, and one of the places we go every year is New Jersey. And normally I make fun of Newark Airport. I gotta say now, Newark is actually fairly nice. The old terminal was like the basement of a dungeon, but now Terminal A at Newark is actually pretty nice, so I give them credit there. But her family lives, my wife's family lives out in kind of rural New Jersey, about 45-minute to an hour drive from Newark Airport. And my father-in-law and I were having a couple of scotches out in the barn the other day. It's a little mini farm. And walking back to the main house, we were talking about the drones in New Jersey. And he looks up and says, oh, there's one right there. So we actually saw one of those things fly over. And there's a little airport kind of near where they live where they do flight instruction. So there are always small single-engine planes, bless you, flying around, and they'll cut the engines and turn them back on. So you kind of get used to seeing some small aircraft around there. These were not small planes. You could hear the engine, and it wasn't an electric engine like you hear, say, like with a DJI drone. It was more of an engine type noise. And they had lights on. So there were lights on it, so it was not like a UFO or anything stealthy trying to hide. But it was just a drone, and it seemed to be about as big as a small aircraft, although going very slowly, and it just flew over. So what do you guys think on these drones? Is something nefarious going on? What in the world is going on? Let's hope everything is okay. Let's see, more carbon steel. Let's see, Pavel Wren 57114 is talking about protective oil he puts on his pan after he uses it. He says he oils his pan, he uses it once or twice a week, and coats it with oil, and after a week it starts to smell. Now any oil in the world will eventually go rancid. I think what is happening is maybe he's gotten some older oil, and after a week or so it's just going rancid. That seems a little quick to me, and I've never had a carbon steel skillet actually start to smell. I would try some fresher oil. I'll also point out too that carbon steel benefits from being used. If you oil a carbon steel skillet and put it away for a month, you pick it back up, it very well might feel a little sticky or tacky. If you use your pans regularly, it really does help the seasoning. All right, this girl's getting a little cranky, and I think he's ready for a bottle. Old dad is kind of ready for a bottle himself. So we're gonna wrap this thing up. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast Podcast. Yay!